Part 2, under Chronology, subtitle, Origins of Germanic Tribes. Quote, Germanic peoples, with an S, moved out of southern Scandinavia and northern Germany to the adjacent lands between the Elbe and Oder after 1000 BC. Stop! This was one of the initial replacement pulses to replicate the original Gentiles our ancestors scattered. I will not deny their claim of origin because of what we discovered in our African understanding. You remember? After the clones are produced, they are taken to the outskirts to learn how to be human. From there, just like we learned in our barbary pirate understanding, from the outskirts is where those responsible for clone distribution will pick them up. But as long as you know these were wild African German Scandinavians, as opposed to the original Gentile Germans, we all good for now. I say it like that because, as you will soon hear, they are going to tell us the Slavs came from the exact same Scandinavian region later. But let's continue so I can prove each armada's coverage locations. Listen up. Quote, the first wave moved westward and southward, pushing the resident Celts west to the Rhine about 200 BC, moving into southern Germany up to the Roman province of Gaul and Cisalpine Gaul by 100 BC, where they were stopped by Gaius Marius and Julius Caesar. It is this western group which was described by the Roman historian Tacitus in 56 to 117 AD and Julius Caesar in 100 to 44 BC. Stop. Bingo. Wait. The Celts to the Rhine in 200 BC? So in essence, the first wave talked about earlier, that we talked about earlier, is really the second wave and so on. But one thing is for sure, as you can plainly see, the original Gentiles our ancestors scattered into Gaul, etc., were already in the Roman sphere, which can only mean we are definitely talking about two or more going under the same Gaul banner at this point. Not only that, with the same MO as our earlier history understandings, each armada has many different strains of the white man going under one banner. Mind you now, not all strains of the white man are necessarily white skinned. More on that later. But as you will soon hear, as they conquered the obsolete, they leave one diverse suitable strain in its place until only the Shasu protectors are left, in which in turn they create their own kingdom and many forts within all of the kingdoms to protect them. You know, like the Spartans. Let's continue for more proof. Quote, a later wave of Germanic tribes migrated eastward and southward from Scandinavia between 600 and 300 BC to the opposite coast of the Baltic Sea, moving up from the Volska near the Carpathians. During Tacitus' era, they included lesser-known tribes such as the T's and the C's and the H's and the C's. However, a period of federation and intermarriage resulted in the familiar groups known as the Almanes, the Franks, the Saxons, the Frisons, and the Thurgarians. Stop. Bingo! So these cats we looking at are nothing but mongrel mutts. Ha! So, other than a chosen mind automatically understanding and realizing the Baltic Sea must be where the upgrades were learning how to become humans, like the African factory showed us, they are telling a chosen mind that all of a sudden, and out of the blue, on one side of the narrow Baltic Sea, you know, the Baltic Sea we recently discovered was less than 2,000 years old. Well, they want a chosen mind to believe on one side of the narrow Baltic there was such a population explosion they could afford 10 to 20,000 German Scandi warriors at a time to go resettle distant lands. And in this corner, on the opposite side of the narrow Baltic Sea to be exact, another different and distinct group of German Scandis had their own population explosion to where they had to stretch their legs 10 to 20,000 warriors at a time. And having first-hand knowledge of the different and distinct races of people living in Iceland, compliments of the emergency landing from India on account of my stroke, I can tell you with all certainty there are at least 5 different people under the same indigenous Scandi banner. You got giants 7 feet to 7'5" tall, walking around as though it's nothing. The men are the 6th tallest and the women are the 9th tallest in the world on average. But then there is an extremely strange looking race that was very prominent. I don't want to say nothing very, very bad because he was my primary care once I got to the ambulance from the plane to the hospital. So I'm looking at this cat like, oh my God. And then I'm noticing while I'm there, the different people and how prominent they are, and they all look the damn same. And I'm talking about, when I say muscles, let me finish this and I'll go back. Let me finish this. But then there's an extremely strange looking race that was prominent. They were short with muscles on top of muscles where I didn't even know muscles were supposed to be. They were all blonde and all had male pattern baldness with the slightest tint to their skin. They looked like what I would consider a Russian with a couple of percentages of wild African in them. But that's just me. But off the cuff, before we go any further. Yeah. I'm not saying that they were all bulked up because, Iceland is the weightlifting and, well, not bulk, but, power man and, they in the weightlifters. No, not that bulky stuff. But they had knots everywhere. I mean, everywhere. All on their head. Their head was all knotted up with muscles. I'm looking at it like, man, these guys are so strange looking. And their faces, they all look the same. They all look the same. And they had the wildest eyes. I can't even explain it to you. Man, but they're different. You had the very, very tall that they had to actually stoop down and get off the elevator and stoop down to, go through doors and stuff like that. And it's nothing. I mean, they all over the place. And all the women, they were very, very tall. They're very superficial in the fact that they must have this some kind of machine that because they all got flawless skin, and they don't have flawless skin. You can tell when there's makeup, but it's a different kind of makeup. It's as though they airbrush. That's it. Like everybody airbrushes over their skin. All of the girls. So you can't really tell if they're pretty or not, but that's sidebar. But let's continue. Sorry about that. That's just one of my personal experiences that I can tell you about. But that's just me. As far as this article's information, question: is this not the exact same MO as our Bronze Age Indo-European / Indo-Iranian discoveries? After they successfully prey, pounce, play, become, and destroy, they conduct marriage pacts with each other to further muddy up the waters of their beginnings. But let's continue for more clues, shall we? Check out how they are about to not only tell us how an armada consists of different nations, 10 to 20,000 strong under their one main banner, but also how the armada leaves an upgraded nation behind to override the obsolete nation. Under first phase, quote, the barbarian invasion may be divided into 2 phases. The first phase, occurring between AD 300 and AD 500, is partly documented by Greek and Latin historians, but difficult to verify archaeologically. You know what I'm trying to say. Red flag. But let's continue. It puts Germanic peoples in control of most areas of what was then the Western Roman Empire. The the Tervingis, entered Roman territory after a clash with the Huns in 376. Sometime thereafter, in Marcianopolis, the escort to Frigidan, their leader, was killed while meeting with Lupercinus. Listen up. Listen up. The Tarvingis rebelled, and the Visigoths, a group derived either from the Tarvingis or from a fusion of mainly Gothic groups with an S, eventually invaded Italy and sacked Rome in 410 before settling in Gaul. And then, 50 years later, in Iberia, founding a kingdom that lasted for 250 years. Did you catch it? If not, let's try it again. Quote, they were followed into Roman territory, Germany, England, etc., first by a confederation of H's, Rugarians, and Scararians warriors under O that disposed of Romulus Augustulus on 4 September 476, and later by the Ostrogoths, led by Theodoric the Great, who settled in Italy. All right, listen up. Let the beat rock. Quote, in Gaul, the Franks, a fusion of Western Germanic tribes whose leaders, with an S, had been aligned with Rome since the 3rd century AD, entered Roman lands gradually during the 5th century, and after consolidating power under Childeric and his son Clovis, decisive victories over somebody in 486, established themselves as rulers of the northern Roman Gaul, fending off challenges from the Alemannes, the Bulgarians, the Visigoths, the Frankish kingdoms became, and the Visigoths. The Frankish kingdom became the nucleus of what would later become France and Germany. Listen up. The initial Anglo-Saxon settlement of Britain occurred during the 5th century, when Roman control of Britain had come to an end. The Bulgarians settled the northwest Italy, Switzerland, eastern France in the 5th century. Stop. Bingo, I told you. Man. But I told you. But just like you probably did, I too